Hey guys, happy Saturday. It's been a while since I went live and I wanted to kind of touch base with you guys about what's been going on. So school starts on Tuesday. I am super excited. Also super nervous because new school year means a lot of new changes, but overall Mason has had kind of a rough summer, and so I'm excited to get back into the routine and the schedule of things. So that hopefully things kind of calm down. I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate. Recently, I've posted some new blog posts that I made on the website, NicoleSchlechter.com, about how to deal with that after-school meltdown, how to kind of make it through. There's another one up there about how to help your child ease into the back to school transition, things that you can do to support them through that, that are also going to kind of help you get through that transition too, because that can be really hard. Next weekend, the 17th, I am going to be at the Dundee Library talking to people and parents about special education there, but it's actually like a special needs education fair. So if you guys are local, it's from 11 to 1. Come hang out with us. And sorry, my eyes are itchy. Thank you for allergies, right? This is allergy season. So yeah, if you guys are local, come hang out with us. But I have been talking to a lot of parents, and a lot of them have kids who have ADHD. And with that comes a lot of misunderstanding about behavior on the school side a lot of the times. When they see a kid misbehaving and acting out, it's really quick to judge and just kind of assume that that kid is just behaving badly. When in reality, if you look at like the whole picture and everything that's going on in their environment, it's probably more that a part of something that's a part of their disability, right? Something that's a part of that ADHD, whether it's impulsivity or lack of focus or shouting out in class or name calling, throwing things without meaning it, things like that. So I wanted to come here and I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about the difference between a 504 and an IEP. I get this question a ton. Or my parents will go to school and they'll say, well, the school says we only can have a 504 because they have ADHD, and ADHD only gets a 504. And that is true some of the time, that ADHD can qualify for a 504, but they also can qualify for an IEP if they meet different kinds of things. So I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about those differences. I'm going to give you kind of a rundown of an IEP, and then we're going to talk about the 504 and just kind of compare from there. If you guys have questions, leave them below. An IEP is something that's governed under the Department of Education, under IDEA law. So it is a federal law that governs this IEP document. That is a legal document, and it's for students who need specialized instruction. So something about their disability prevents them from accessing their education the same way that their peers were. So they need special things to help them kind of catch up with their peers. So going back to the 504 is actually governed by a totally different department. It's governed by the Department of Civil Rights from the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. So the difference there is that a 504 is just accommodations, whereas an IEP can cover related services, accommodations, annual goals, modifications, which a lot of people think you can get modifications in a 504. And I guess you could, but most of the time it's just something, just accommodations like extended test taking and things like that. A 504 is for everybody, so it goes until whenever. There's no age limit on it. So it's something that you can take with you to college. It can follow you into the workforce. I talked to a parent the other day who her job is kind of cool, but she is an aide to a teacher. Now, she's not an aide to the students. She's an aide to the teacher. The teacher's in a wheelchair and she needs help kind of accessing her environment. And so she has an aide that is like all drawn out for her in her 504. So it's something that can follow them long term. That doesn't mean that they can't have an IEP in school up until 12th grade and then get a 504. You can definitely do that, but you don't need both of them because everything that's covered in an IEP should be covered in the 504. But what is covered in the, or wait, I said that wrong, sorry. Everything that's covered in the 504 should be in an IEP, but there's more in an IEP. So the 504 won't have those services like social work and OT and PT and speech and things like that that the IEP would have. Did I say that right? I talked really fast and then I lost track of what I was saying, so sorry. So I said placement. Oh, placement's another one that we talk about a lot. Like, if your child needs special instruction in a smaller classroom environment, or if they benefit from, being in a group of peers who have similar abilities to them, in a placement outside of gen ed, that's something that can only be done in an IEP. That wouldn't be something that would ever be you would ever qualify for in a 504. So that's definitely different. Some of the accommodations, you guys know, I have notes over here, so sorry I keep looking. But some of the accommodations that would be available in a 504, for example, are extended test taking, large print, preferred seating, reading notes out loud, having a note taker, having tests read out loud, giving like a second reminder or a second set of notes on what the classroom instruction is. So sometimes I see that like the teacher will give instruction on what she wants the class to do. And for kids who have ADHD or struggle with focus, they're listening, but they sit down to do their work and they totally forget, right? So one of the things that they can do is have a paper on their desk that would explain what the instructions were after the teacher gave them verbally. So that's something that is really helpful for kids too. But fidgets, extra time going through the hall. Once you get to like middle school and high school, sometimes kids struggle with that executive functioning and like organizing what task needs to go when in order to meet that deadline of the bell ringing. 3 minutes sounds crazy, but I think that's normally 3 to 5 minutes is normally what you get in the hall. So extra time in the hall, frequent breaks in class, like fidgets in their seat or a fidget box in the classroom sort of thing. All of that is part of accommodations that can be in your 504. However, all of that can be included in your IEP too if it's appropriate for your child. But in addition to those accommodations, you can also have modifications in your IEP that would be like a modification on what the homework requirement is or test taking requirement is, things like that. Just something that is more appropriate for what your child is learning. The other thing I really like about an IEP for our behavior kids is that they can include a behavior intervention plan. And if you guys have been around, you've kind of heard me talk about that. But if you guys want me to, maybe I could do just a video on behavior intervention plans, but leave a note below and let me know if that's something you guys want to talk about. But behavior intervention plans are great for my kiddos that have that social emotional delay and they don't really understand how to behave the same way as their peers do. They don't understand maybe what the classroom expectations are or how to control themselves to meet those classroom expectations. A behavior intervention plan is a great way to give positive reinforcements to whatever that struggling behavior might be. And that's something that isn't available in a 504. So 2 examples of kids that might qualify for an IEP and kids who might qualify for a 504. An IEP would be a child with autism or ADHD, any kind of, it really doesn't matter what the diagnosis is, it matters what your eligibility category would be. But those are just 2 examples, autism and ADHD. A kid can be doing well academically, but needs social skills, positive reinforcements to follow the classroom expectations. So I specifically added in there that they can be okay academically, because another thing that I hear all the time is that parents are hearing from their school, well, his grades are good, so he doesn't need any support. And his grades are good, so he must just be behaving badly, right? And that is not the case. So if you hear that, tell them, say that is not true, because I hate hearing that from parents. It's so frustrating to know that your kid's struggling, but doing great academically, because being smart is not a criteria to qualify for eligibility of an IEP. Being smart isn't in the criteria. That's not a thing. So for a 504 though, it could be a kid with ADHD. It could also be a kid with like a medical thing going on. When I was in high school, I had a 504 because I have epilepsy. So I had certain things that were harder for me. I had some other health things going on. And so they had a 504 in place for me so that I could access my education the same way that my peers were without struggling. So an ADHD child who does not need specialized instructions, so somebody who doesn't need modifications of what they're learning or a special placement, but benefits from frequent breaks, unlimited test taking, a note taker, things read out loud, a fidget box, preferred seating, any of those things could qualify you for a 504. So another question that I get from parents a lot is, which one's better? And there is no right answer to that. Just like an IEP, a 504 is there to be individualized for your child. So which one is better is not a general statement. It is kind of a what is better for your child sort of thing. So if you have a child who's struggling socially and is acting out in class, but is doing okay academically, an IEP might be appropriate for them to help them meet those classroom expectations so that they're not constantly getting in trouble. Because if they're constantly getting in trouble, then they're probably not accessing their education the same way as their peers. It's probably a struggle for them, right? And we're not just talking about academics. We need to think about functional skills too. So that means social skills are a part of that. If you guys have heard me say before, an individual education plan is setting up your child for further education, independent living, and employment. And if they don't have social skills enough to sit in class and adhere to classroom expectations, they're probably not going to get a job. So those are things that we need to talk about. If you have a 504 and you think that they need an IEP, hit me up, give me a message, and let's work that out. It's not something that is always like attainable, or I don't want to say attainable, but it might not be reasonable even if your child is struggling. The school might still think that a 504 is appropriate for them. But what I will tell you is that when you go in for that initial evaluation, do not ask for an IEP. Do not ask for a 504. Because if you ask for a 504 and they really need an IEP, most likely you're just going to get in a 504. And if you ask for an IEP and they really could be successful with just a 504, you don't want to like narrow yourself, right? Like we want the least restrictive environment for your child, and that could be IEP or 504 depending on what their needs are. So when you go in for that initial eval, you want to ask for a full comprehensive evaluation so that the school's kind of telling you, here's what we looked at, here's what we evaluated, and this is what we think that is appropriate for them. And then from there, you can decide if you agree or disagree, and we can take different steps from there to move forward with an IEP or 504. So Megan says, thank you for doing this live. You helped me immensely on how to better advocate for my sons. I'm so glad. I get this question all the time. I feel like I should have done this like more recently, but yeah, I'm glad I'm doing it. And if anybody has any more questions about anything, feel free to let me know. This was just kind of a basics on IEPs and 504s, but I hope it was helpful, and I hope you guys have a great rest of the Saturday, and I will see you guys next week probably. Have a good day.